And also on the bike, there was like really bad wind. And that's why my transition from bike to run was hard because instead of like being upright, like I was on the most of my workouts, I had to be down. And because of that, and also like turns out I think my bike is too small for me. My back was like it was so tight. I spent I think 11 or something minutes in second transition because I was literally I couldn't bend over. I couldn't do anything and I had to change my shirt and I'm like I was like this the whole time. I couldn't move and I had to change my shoes. And I literally I can't move. My back was so tight. And I'm thinking like at no moment in the race I had a thought of quitting. Like it didn't cross my mind. But my mind was like, how will I do half marathon with this back? Like I don't know if like how I will do it.
So how did you feel like in the morning of exactly like you see the people putting last minute things, there's a tire that's blown.
I think morning started
Like,
with my rice and
oh
uh
yes, rice and jam
yeah.
was it? Yeah.
Yeah, there were like two options, rice and honey, or I think I put a bit of honey there as well, or rice and jam because I was watching like I think day before we had full Ironmans and there was like the panel, or it was like 2 days, or it was day before the whole full. There was like one lady who said that like before the race that she's getting like rice with jam, and I'm like, I guess that's what I can do. So I made my rice, and I also ate it the day before I went to sleep. So we picked you up while I was still eating my rice, and
And it was early, for the context, like you have to arrive there till 8, was it? But you could only start racing, it was like 10 something. So
yeah,
I was being picked up at 7. You were up 6 something. And that kind of adds to the whole tension of the race day.
yeah. And I think if I was more stressed, the waiting would have been harder because usually it's not that big of a distance between the pros starting and the rest of the people starting. But it was because the pros they had to start, they had to go through the first cycle of the bike, and once they get into the second circle of the bike, that's when we start. Just to make sure we don't overlap with them. So that's where like there was a lot of waiting. So like I go check if everything is there and then it's like pretty much like 2 hours or something like that of just like waiting. But it was interesting to see because like you had to run in the water. The day before when the and there was like storm as well. Like there was wind, there was like everything. Because the full Ironman, like there was one person that one of my friends connected me with who did it the day before, and he was like, the wind was like crazy. It started on the second lap of the swim, and it just pretty much like didn't stop the whole race. Um, and so day before they were starting from the platform. So you have platform like 100 meters in the water, and you start from there where it's like deep enough to swim. We didn't have the platform. Platform got destroyed. so so we had to our run started at the very beginning and you had to run in the water, which I was like I wasn't freaking out about it, but I was like, why? Why do we have to do this? Um so like that was like one of the things that got like well one of the many things apart from like no lake to sea that got changed. That I was like, and I think for me the biggest thing was like everybody got to see me now like running, and I don't want to sprint in it because I don't want to like spend all my energy. Um, but the wedding was fine because like you were there and we would like have a chat and stuff like that, and you helped me with like getting my like suit on, and made my braids as well. Uh, so I think that, and I think the big part of it is like you just having you there, like just made it fun, or it made it a bit more enjoyable, or kind of helped me to get out of my head a bit. Yeah. So that was like the morning or like the moment until the race. And I think the biggest thing I was waiting before the race was this. Like that's the big thing that I kept visualizing, like that moment where you're like, okay, that's it. Oh, and by the way, like it was the first time. on the race day, me wearing my new swimming goggles. Speaking of last minute.
So now you've started the race. You unfortunately needed to run into the water. I
Which
remember,
wasn't too bad. It actually wasn't too bad. I just,
maybe, I mean, from sight, it was still quite a distance that you had to
oh yeah,
run
it was
because the
big distance.
sea is shallow.
It was like
Uh,
150 meters, I think, at least.
exactly. But I think you're just going on adrenaline. I mean, there's fireworks going like,
Oh yeah, that was cool.
so it's the start was the fun, like best start I've seen,
Yeah,
because there's
yeah.
music, there's fire. So you've started it. Now, what was the most challenging part? Because you said you thought the swimming was your strong suit. Um,
I didn't think it was strong, but I wasn't too worried about it affecting my time because my biggest thing was like finish before the deadline, which is like
mhm.
8 hours. And with swim, like even if I would do it slow, like there's not much that I can improve to save a lot of time because the biggest thing is like the bike and run. That I was slightly concerned about was people swimming next to you because I had never done it. I didn't know like all the kicking and everything. But it actually wasn't too bad. Even jellyfishes, I was like, I don't mind. Um, so that's where like I actually was surprised, and I was also surprised at how well I navigated the swim because I kept checking where the buoys are. They were like huge. But it's really really easy to get off track because even like it was really interesting on corners. It's like a stream takes you because you're going like with everybody. Or like there was one, it was so weird. There's one moment I'm swimming and I'm checking like if there's anybody next to me because I also didn't want to hit anybody or do anything like that. It's like you swim, I take a breath in, and like there's nobody there. I take a breath in, and all of a sudden there's a person next to me because of the waves or something. It's like you swim, I take the breath in, and like I'm like, where did you come from? But I think swim was I felt really good about the swim. I think one of there were like two challenging pieces. Well, probably more. Uh, now that I think of it, they keep coming up. So first of all was, of course, transition to the bike. I hadn't done it, so I would say first third of the bike, my legs are like super jelly. So if you're listening to this and you're planning to do your first half Ironman, please try the transition with decent bike afterwards because you get out of the water and even like when you usually do swim, you're kind of like feeling like tired. Um, so then on top of it, now to have your muscles like working, my body just wasn't used to that. So it took me literally like first 30 kilometers until the first station. It was like 28 kilometers. That's when the whole time I'm like, can I do it? Like, can like if my legs are like this for the rest of the bike ride, like I don't think I can like it's not that I don't think I can do it, but it's like how will I do it? Like, or at what point they just like they're just done. It was terrible jelly legs. I had never felt it like that. I was like every time when I'm like pushing it, it's like okay, just one more. And especially like when I saw there was like small hill up, I'm like no. And also that's where like my bike wasn't probably the best bike to have with the changing the gears. um it's really tricky. It starts to like kind of jump over, and when I was training I'm like oh it doesn't matter kind of thing. I just do one speed. Now with this I see I see the mountain and I'm like oh shit, we need to adjust here. So first round I did well. Second one I second circle in bike probably was one of the most challenging pieces because first of all, I had to get off the bike because of the jumping over and I had to walk up the hill, which took some time. Especially with those shoes, like click, 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 click. um, then second thing was last, I would say 10, 15 kilometers, my cycling shoes, they were hurting like it was bad and it just got worse. And I'm like, I still have 10K to go. So I'm glad I kind of endured that. And then the third piece was transition from and also on the bike, there was like really bad wind. And that's why my transition from bike to run was hard because instead of like being upright, like I was on the most of my workouts, I had to be down. And because of that, and also like turns out I think my bike is too small for me. my back was like, it was so tight. I spent, I think, 11 or something minutes in second transition because I was literally, I couldn't bend over. I couldn't do anything. And I had to change my shirt. And I'm like, I was like this the whole time. I couldn't move. And I had to change my shoes. And I literally, I can't move. My back was so tight. And I'm thinking like, at no moment in the race, I had a thought of quitting. Like it didn't cross my mind. But my mind was like, how will I do half marathon with this back? Like, I don't know if like how I will do it. Um, so I changed and I intentionally took some while to like just sit and rest, or try to do something to help the back. And then the good thing that you did, that's when you came in. You sneaky, sneaky bastards, but in a good way. Um, I run out and you had these like the signs on which you were writing and you showed me the time. And I'm like, oh, I think you showed like 5 hours. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm kind of on target. So I have still like 3 hours to finish. It's tight, but I can manage it. Um, and my strategy was, which you didn't come in handy with that one. Oh, like another big thing that I missed out on was I had issues with my cough. Like it was hurting bad when the I would say like when I would do my runs, almost always my calf would start to hurt, and then it goes back to my like hamstring, my glute, like my whole leg starts to hurt really badly where I can't really move, and it was concerning. And it started in like months ago. Like first time I experienced it was in like Madrid, and it was like April time I think. And so that's why I started to like go to physio stuff like that. On the race day, instead of running the or trying to run with like little breaks, what I did, I just came up with strategy of I run 50 breaths of running and then I take 20 breaths break. 50 breaths run, 20 breaths break. And that is my strategy. And then when I would run by you, you're like, run, run. And I'm like, I'm resting. I'm following my strategy that seems to be working to get me through this. So it wasn't strategy of getting good time. It was strategy of trying to have my calf to endure the distance after the previous two um, parts of the race. Um,
I mean,
but
we of course didn't know about that strategy,
yeah,
and
of course,
it
yeah,
was the first part where we could. The good part of being kind of compared to you running marathons and everything, or half marathons for now, was the tracking possibility of Ironman because they
yes,
do it so well that we had put a tracker AirTag in your bike bag
yeah, which I
for
forgot.
some reason, but
No, it
we
wasn't in the bike bag. I forgot to take it.
yes, you forgot to take it because we thought that we would have trouble tracking you, but
Yeah,
they did it so well that you it was there were so many updates that we could easily predict where you were, and it even said in which point they assume based on your pace, etc., where you will be. So we could see when you were in the transition of bike, because that was the part where we didn't come to support you. We were there for the swim and we were there for a run, but for the bicycle, we're like, well, how we will
yeah,
drive with the car. So we saw you end the bicycle, we saw you resting, and then you started to run, but you were like kind of run walking, and we were like, no, you just started. Now you have to
yeah.
go. And yes, because there was
And you
few of
also
us.
didn't know like how my transition went.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
mean, we didn't know
you were
behind.
pretty much
I
like just trying to support.
Exactly. And we just assumed that, okay, you might be feeling tired. You probably took your time because of the change, and maybe you ate something. And that's why it was the time, not because of your back issues
Yeah,
and
yeah,
things like that. But yes, because there was few of us, there was always a poster with something encouraging. And I think we had like four different quotes on rotation and one where we would put time. And I know you will want to touch upon the time yourself. So yeah, you can continue going on like
yeah.
how did the run feel? And that's where we had the most interaction with you as well.
Yeah, I think having you there really helped because it was kind of like in some ways I was like I was getting curious on what will be the next sign. But also it was really helpful with the time because like you writing on the time, which I didn't know what they were actually doing until later, which you will find out. Um, with seeing the time, I was now able to kind of calculate if I need to speed up, if I can maintain, or I need to like, or I can. There's no rush. So that was actually super helpful, and also like with you singing and shouting and all the stuff that you did. And it was like interesting because I would run and I would see you one place and I kind of don't expect you to see again until I see you in that place again. And I remember I was running and like now you're here again in like different place and I'm like, what? How did I get here so quickly? So that was cool, kind of like you following me along and I didn't know, especially in the first circle, I didn't know where I could expect you to be. Um, and science definitely helped as well to kind of like, I think with the run, the biggest thing that you did is you just kept it fun. And one thing that I did with the run that was super helpful for me because also like it was hot, like it was like quite hot outside. You were literally eating like ice cream or something, I think you
Yeah,
said.
I was feeling so guilty when we were waiting for you because we were usually arrived in the spot like few kilometers from when you would reach us. And it was hot day and I was dehydrated. I wasn't running Ironman, but I was feeling dehydrated. And I felt so bad about drinking water. I would always turn my back to the runners because I'm like, because of that rule, like no one can help you or nothing. Like I can't pass any water. And I'm dehydrated and doing nothing. I can't imagine how they feel. And so I always felt so bad about just simply drinking water. And yes, we went for ice creams at one point as well. But those ones we ate away from the race. So we wouldn't tempt people too much. So yeah.
I think the biggest thing that helped me with the running, I didn't feel the cold. I didn't feel the hot because they had ice. So I would at the stations I would grab the ice and hold it in my hands for the rest of the time until I get to the next station, which usually it would melt by the time I get there. That was really helpful with keeping the body temperature lower, I think, because I didn't feel hot at any moment during the run. I didn't feel like I'm overheated, and I think having that ice in hands was like super helpful with that. Um, and then I think the last, before I finished, like it was the last time that you showed me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can try to get, I don't remember what was the time. Do you remember the last time that you showed me?
No, but
I think you
you should
showed
have the
something like,
posters. I gave you all the
yeah,
posters.
I had like they're back in Latvia, but I think it was like 7 hours 40, something like that.
Yeah,
And I
yes, we
remember
did.
thinking like, oh, if I now try to speed up, I can try to get there in like 7 hours 50. So, and I'm like trying to speed up and I'm like putting energy into it. Um, and then like the ring thing was like not good. They did it didn't have the I think something was missing there. So that was a bit awkward because like when you finish the race for the first time, you can ring the bell. Um, and then like I was running in the finish, which was really cool. They had all the lights and everything, not the lights, but I don't know what it is.
Fireworks, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then as I run in the finish, I turn around, and I'm like, wait, I think like the time was 7 hours 37, and I'm like, it was 7:40, like back there, and uh, and that's when like I think you said, or I was like, I think something clicked or something, but I was like, oh, or like you said that you did it, and I'm like, that's actually so smart because the whole time I thought like I'm kind of like I'm still in kind of the safe zone. I knew that I would finish it in like 20 minutes, but I didn't know that it was like faster. And I finished and I'm like, whoa.
So
So
for
so yeah.
context, we were rounding things up, and based on how we felt in that moment, either we would add extra 10 or 15 minutes to the time.
Yeah,
Sometimes maybe
and
I
I
would say
trusted you
like
and I thought like,
17,
okay, that's my time.
because we never knew the actual time she would reach us anyway. So we would just predict, okay, by the time she's here, that's like 3 extra kilometers. She's probably going to be around this. So let's add like 7 minutes, 10 minutes extra to that. So based on your own pace, sometimes the gap was bigger or not, based on our own kind of predictions. Plus, we always added the buffer. And there was a moment where we didn't think about showing you the numbers, and that's where you kind of caught up because it was the last checkpoint before the race and we were going to the finish line and we accidentally caught you and you asked what's the time, and we were not prepared for that. We were like, and so we gave you, I think, less than we had shown you on the sign earlier.
Oh yeah,
Because on the
I
sign
didn't connect
earlier, we
that.
gave you like 50 minutes extra, but you already finished the loop. So you were under that time, and we still gave you the buffer because we read it and gave like extra 5 minutes or something. But you got confused. You were like, what? And I was like, oh, fuck.
No, I
No,
didn't.
I
It
mean,
was because I didn't hear. I didn't even calculate anything. I was just like, whenever you said, I'm like, okay, that's a number now, kind of thing. And I just think ahead of like what I need to adjust. But yeah, that was actually really smart from you. I didn't see that coming, and it did really well.
thank you. Thank you very much. We felt so clever.
Yeah, it was really clever.
So now I would say you finished the race. How did you feel at the end? I mean, first of all, you see the bell, you know, you race over, they scream your name. What's the first emotions?
I don't think I felt much. Or like it still feels a bit like a dream, I think. By the way, my doll. Um, and it also wasn't like, oh, finally it's over kind of thing. It was it did feel good. Um, but I don't think I had like any, you know like how many people they have like these like emotional stuff or like or even like they some sense of accomplishment or something. I didn't think I felt anything like that. I did feel good. I was like, damn, that was like I didn't expect that time. Um, so I think it even like I to some extent I think I'm still processing it because when I did like a bike ride a month later and I did only like 30K, I'm like, how did I do half Ironman a month ago? Like I had no idea, and it was one of the biggest takeaways for me of like the power of mind because I think big part of that race was my mind, just like getting the everything focused and despite all the setbacks to do the race and do it in the time that I did. But yeah, I don't know if there was any like it was interesting because I felt like I will feel all these emotions. But I think I had gone through so much that at that point I was like, yeah, I feel good. Like this is good.
You talked about the ending of the race being anticlimactic in a way. Um,
What does
but
that
how,
mean?
well, because you said you didn't have any strong emotions afterwards. There wasn't like, oh, now I
Wait, let
finished.
me think about it again because I was thinking about the next call I had before we get back to this. Uh, how did I feel? I think I don't think I had any like strong, powerful emotions that would like take me over. I I don't even think that in that moment I would feel pride. I think I was still in that moment of, well, first of all, I was trying to figure out what happened with the time. Like that's something that I was like, wait, what? And I instantly I think started to think because after that, I think that's the thing. I don't think I had enough time or space to even like feel because I already started to think on like, oh, we need to because like after I finished, we were planning to go to Latvia. So I was thinking about like probably like one of the first thoughts was like, okay, I need to get my stuff so that you can get home and we can pack and we can leave because like we had to get back on time and it was Sunday. So and the work week is starting on like Monday. So but but I think that might have been playing some role in it. But I think even like reflecting back on it, I definitely in that moment, I don't know if I felt any like clear emotions other than surprise about the time. I think like I didn't expect that. And and I think like part of me also was like happy because I did enjoy that. It was fun, especially with having all of you there, like kind of keeping it fun and keeping it entertaining with like your songs or your like posters or stuff like that. Um, but I think I felt like a bit in a rush with like sorting everything and getting everything done because I was like, okay, I'm happy I finished early because it gives us a bit more time to prepare before we need to leave. But I know that I don't, I sometimes think it feels still like a dream, like it didn't actually happen, because it's something that felt so impossible for so long that now that it has happened and it is real, it's kind of like, I don't think the both realities have synced fully yet. Or it
Hmm.
feels like that maybe it's, I don't think that I feel like it's a glitch, um, but it's something that it's still kind of, even as I look back on like, and I had somewhere written down all the kilometers and distances that I swam and I biked and I ran in those 90 days. I'm like, I think I cycled 10 times the distance, if not more. Um, I swam around 60 kilometers. I don't remember running. Running was the least. Um, but swimming was like all, if probably like 20 times the distance that I had to swim. So even like thinking on all that, that the volume that I did, I didn't feel exhausted. I didn't feel like, oh, finally it's done. Um, I would say like I felt good. I felt a bit surprised about the number because I in my mind I'm like, oh, I have to finish it before it's 8 hours. To find out it's like 30 minutes faster than that. um, and yeah, I think overall I just felt like quite happy about it. Not like happy, but I was like, yeah, like it's pretty cool. But I wasn't. I think that's the thing. I wasn't surprised, which is
Hmm.
interesting. It's kind of like it was expected, even though I didn't know if I could actually do it, which is an interesting place to be.
Yeah, because I remember talking about like with you the day before, and you were kind of joking like, "Oh, I hope I really finish in those 8 hours. Like I hope I don't need to
Yeah,
repeat how I was in Latvia." So you could hear that you still had doubt versus the rest of
that's
us
the
were like,
thing.
"No, no, you will finish." Like
Yeah,
looking at your times. I mean, looking at your watch times and things like that, we're like, no, you'll finish. But at the same time, because you hadn't had much of transition practice, etc., I could see where the doubt set in. But yes, you say that actually when it happened, then deep down you knew that
yeah.
uh,
I don't think I had doubt. I think what it was more like not knowing. And I
mm,
was kind of acknowledging that I actually don't know. But it wasn't me kind of questioning myself because I only knew that the only way how I can find out is on the race day. And that's when I will actually get the answer if I can or can't finish. Which for me was like a big step, or like looking back, it's like a big feedback on my growth because there was a time that well, first of all, I wouldn't even sign up. I wouldn't tell anybody, or like anybody online, and I would question myself the whole time. But like the day before the race, I actually just didn't know if I can do it because I had never done it before. But it wasn't coming from a place, or I didn't feel I was in a place where I was doubting myself. It was more like I don't know, and I'll find out tomorrow. And I didn't expect that I wouldn't feel any anxiety, any fear, anything on the race day. On the race day before the race, I was calm. I was good. I was joking around with you. I didn't feel any anxiety or anything like that. And I don't think I felt anything like that during the race as well. It was more like I felt at some points I was like, okay, we have a problem in front of us. It's like, okay, we have limited time to resolve it. Like, what are some of the things that I can do or like uh, adjust or whatever to resolve it? But that was interesting because usually my default would be to go to doubt or anxiety or even like shame. I don't think that I had it, or if I had it, it was so small that the rest of the emotions or thoughts they were kind of overpowering it. Um, but I know I was talking about it all the time, like, oh, I don't know if I can finish it because I didn't know. Like, um, but I think it's also because I had that perspective that there's no way how I can fail or lose. This is just my first attempt. Which, by the way, Goggins quote, I think. It's not a failure, it's just like your first attempt. And that's where I was like, okay, tomorrow I find out kind of where I'm at. Also keeping in mind, which I probably didn't keep in mind at the time, I've been doing this only 90 days. And it wasn't full like 90 days. Like it took me like 3, 4 weeks to get the bike. I got my swimming suit like 10 days before the race, if that. So with knowing how little experience, and it's interesting because like I have two people that which I that's one of the things that I did not expect. I had like two people reach out to me and tell that they want to sign up for 70.3 next year, and I'm like, okay. One of them actually this week signed up and sent over to me the screenshot of registration. So like he signed up for next year. And For me it was interesting because like that was one moment where I was like, oh, people actually were like paying attention to like what I was sharing online and like looking at it or stuff like that. Because as you do it, like the closest people would like respond, they would engage, but people outside of that, they won't necessarily like you won't notice that they pay attention because there's only as much as you can see online. So that was something that, and not even that, like thinking of somebody reaching out to me after I did my race saying that they want to do the race, for me, it was like, how cool is that? Like, I would have never imagined that me finishing would lead to two people reaching out to me and saying, like, actually, I want to do the same thing. So that felt like it was kind of interesting moment, and I do enjoy that. And it's like, nice feedback of what I also want to try to do with like stuff that I put out there to encourage people to take action or do stuff. It doesn't have to be Ironman, by the way. Um, but like whatever it is that you want to do or that kind of calls or you feel like you're being called. But yeah, like it's interesting that I thought I would have big emotions. Or I don't think I thought that. I didn't know what I thought. But yeah, it was a lot of it was just like, okay, kind of, which might be like a pattern, might just on to the next or what's yeah.
So looking back right now, was let's put it in two different ways. Was the race and was the whole 90-day journey tougher than you anticipated or easier?
Hmm. It's hard to say because I didn't know what to anticipate. Um, it's kind of like you step into the dark forest without knowing like where like what even to anticipate. So if it has to be comparing, so is it like comparing which one was harder, or it's like was each of them what I anticipated?
Each of them. So
Okay.
looking at them.
So with the training, um, looking back, there's a lot that I didn't think of ahead of the time, like the transitions and diet, which so lucky my body had no response. At no moment I felt like I had crashed or anything during the race, which like having one follower giving me tips was like huge help. And having one of my clients call me out on diet was another huge help. Week before the race. Um, but that's where like I'm super grateful on how my body was like reacting, and I didn't have any kind of. A lot of people end up like having issues or something where like they literally tell that you need to train your body to get used to those like gels all the time. My body had, let me think. I did two half marathons where there were gels given, so that's two gels total in the year. And then I did, I think, another one or two gels in the runs on the week of the race. So that's as much as I did, or my body had conditioning towards the gels. So I don't know how my body did it, but I'm thankful it did, and there were no like additional issues when it comes to the diet piece, or energy piece. Um, the training. I think I knew it gonna be hard. Like few things that I didn't anticipate maybe would be how, especially at the beginning, how low would be the energy in between the sessions, or even like for the rest of the things or rest of the day, things that I had to do where like even if I don't do anything like mentally demanding compared to like working with like client work or something like that, I still felt tired to do the work because a lot of times I would feel like I am just tired from the workouts. I didn't anticipate also how well, I didn't anticipate the result, definitely. I don't think I also anticipated how strong my mind gonna be on the race day when it comes to the race day. But like with the prep, Yeah, I think it's hard to comment on that because I don't think I anticipated anything. I just jumped in the deep end and I was just like, I don't know what I just signed up for because I don't know how the next 90 days is gonna look for, but I guess I'm gonna learn something about myself in those 90 days. And I guess I'm gonna get better. Um, but it was tiring to do like rapid like every day you have to do like big long distances. And then even as I'm like mid distance on that day, I'm like, I have to do long distance tomorrow in the other sport. Um, but I think I can't say that I got surprised by anything. When it comes to the race day, what I didn't anticipate was running the water, which I think initially probably I don't want to say it scared me, but it got into my mind a bit more than it actually was a thing. Like it actually didn't affect me at all. And with the swim, I didn't anticipate how good it's gonna be. It didn't feel good in the moment as I was doing it. It felt like I'm okay. I didn't feel super tired. I didn't feel like I'm maxing out, but I didn't feel like my time was actually way faster than any times that I have done. Um, Definitely didn't anticipate the legs, jelly legs. Definitely not. Um, and the shoes. Well, I kind of knew that the the bike shoes might cause issues. I didn't know how big or bad they would be based on the few cycling sessions that I did with it that were no longer than 1 or 2 hours, or like 30K maybe, which is one third of the distance, which it was fine for 30K. um, I also didn't anticipate that the back pain after the bike. That was something that I got maybe a bit surprised because I had like one of my clients ask me like if at any moment I thought about quitting, and I'm like, nope, didn't cross my mind. And even in that moment when I think the thought I had was like, how will I do half marathon on like this back? Especially knowing also that I have cough issues that I haven't fully like resolved, and back issues have always been a thing, but this back issue wasn't like something that I could see that it could, because like if I would be physically in a state where I know that like I can't continue or it's damaging my body like too much, I probably would stop. Okay, I can't say I would actually. But but like in that moment, I was looking back, I'm actually quite proud of that, like not even questioning of having it as an option to just be like, okay, I'm out. I also didn't anticipate how much fun it would be with having you there, or how much you would actually add that like enjoyment. And like every time when I would run to that end, I'm like, oh, I wonder what they're gonna write like this time, or like where they're gonna be this time, kind of thing. So I think it added some like gamification to it. Because I think, and I also didn't anticipate how chill I'm gonna be on the day. At no moment did I feel, even like with all the stuff that was going wrong along the way, which it will be in like any race, I think, especially like triathlons, because there's so much to go wrong. At no moment I felt like super stressed or super anxious, or like I would be emotionally in a place where I don't feel like I'm in charge, or like I'm in kind of in control. So that's something that I maybe didn't anticipate. No stress before the race. I was like, why am I this calm? Like, there's no stress. No, no. I felt like you were more stressed than I was. That's how I
Maybe a
felt.
bit. I mean, I think all of us were more in the beginning, like, okay, I think part of it is also for us, it was, okay, you start the race, you will go there, how we get out, where's going to be
Logistics.
the blockades and things like that. And yes, we definitely kept the time, I would say, on things more than you, because you were like getting ready, getting like last minute. I think you ate something like banana or something as well. So we were the ones watching the watch and being like,
Mm,
okay, I think we should get moving, or let's move, let's check out what's happening there. But I feel like it's also kind of our job in a way. Like we were there, so it makes more sense for me to be the one worrying about time, so you can exactly visualize
mm.
and do the things that matter. Um, and trust us to take care, being like, okay, you said this time, this is this time, let's go check that area out where you should start and things like that.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of things that I anticipated didn't anticipate. But I think none of it, at no moment in training or race, I was surprised. Where like it was like, oh, I did not expect this. There were things that like threw me off, especially last week. Um, when you understand there's no time to fix all of it. But it was there was no moment when I'm like, okay, I'm like, it's so bad.
If you had to describe your journey, like altogether in one word, what would you use? The first word that comes to your mind.
One was fun, which you probably wouldn't agree with from your perspective of suffering. The other one was uh, well, fun slash joyful. The other one was insightful because like a lot of these races I'm doing to learn stuff about me and explore stuff like internally. Um, Weirdly enough, hard wasn't the word that came to me. Um, Even though it was like hard on paper, I think again, big piece of it has been like the support and people that have been like engaging on like daily basis and keeping it like maybe less heavy, even though it didn't feel heavy initially. But that's where like also my approach is a bit different than it would have been like a few years ago. So I think like the the top two probably is fun and insightful.
I mean, I wouldn't
What
be
would
fun.
you what did you thought I gonna say?
No, I to be honest, I expected fun because
Okay.
I know I saw you through the prep. I saw you. I was more anxious about you finding nutrition out 10 days before the race than you were. I was like, really? You haven't done? I was Googling with you and being like, I
Oh
think
yeah,
these
you
are the
were sending
shops.
me stuff.
Exactly. I was like, I know these sports shops. I think you should go to this shop because this is the biggest one. Like I was sending you to Decathlon. Um, so in a way, I felt some responsibility because you, for me, in that moment, I was like, "You're too chill. Like, let me help you at least find the stores. I think I
Yeah.
know where you can get these things, these things." Um, but I anticipated you saying fun, for sure because I could see it well. And although yes, it was heavy, I could see that you didn't look at it that way. And that just comes from your mindset. So it would, if it was me in your shoes, I would have used yes the word heavy, but I never would have expected to associate that with you. Um, but going closer to the insightful, um, I would like to know what was the one thing you learned about yourself during this journey, because you touched upon several different things and talked a lot about the inner journey that this preparation took you on.
Um, I think one of the things that I definitely learned was, is that a question or like there was
Yes, yes.
okay.
So, what's like one thing that you learned something new
About me.
about you? Yes.
Um, One thing is hard to choose, but I think
Let's say
one,
three, you know.
okay. One definitely is that my mind is stronger than I might think it is. Um, or there was actually one really good insight. Where I remember you told me we had like conversation and about like me feeling like some people I'll talk to they kind of give me a sense that I think that I won't finish it or whatever. And you said that I lost the thought, but you said it so nice. You were pretty much like I have never seen you quit or not to finish something when it matters, whether it's like basketball or like half marathons that I ran or like other stuff that I do. And for me, that was like one of the most insightful things where I was like, oh, I haven't thought about myself that way, or I haven't even like noticed that or seen that. So you saying that was kind of like really interesting shift for me, especially when it's somebody seeing that from the side, or somebody that like you're like really close, where you see a lot of kind of behind the scenes stuff. And for me, I was like, oh, that really kind of, I remember I was on a walk when I think it was the audio that you sent when I heard it. And the rest of the walk, I was like thinking about it and I was like, yeah, maybe that is true. Because yeah, like with basketball, like I remember when I was playing basketball, that's when I was like really anxious a lot of times. I was like really insecure. I don't think I was too anxious about my performance, but I was still kind of more towards like wanting to have it perfect. So I wasn't aware how good I was. And I probably didn't realize it until I started to play again, like this year, where I'm like, I'm actually like good. And this is like 10 years later. But I didn't see it then. Uh, and but I didn't notice that I would show up when it matters, or I wouldn't be kind of quitting or giving up or anything like that. So that's something that I think part of it also gave me a bit more confidence in that, where I was able to see something that like you were seeing, but it is becoming more clear in my mind about it. The other thing was that um, I think I am way better at like trusting myself than I was um maybe like some years ago, where it was like kind of again put it in more perspective how I'm like getting really good at like navigating uncertainty way or like trusting myself to find a way might be a good way to put it because I had no idea what to do the day I signed up other than like okay I guess this is the form that I fill in which even that I probably filled in wrong because they messaged me and asked did you actually want to be in this group. I'm like yeah, please put me there. um, um, but so like that definitely was like another thing, just like seeing that I question myself less, if at all. Um, or like not myself, but maybe like my abilities or my ability to figure it out or find a way. And the other, what else did I learn about myself? I think the biggest one is just like how much you can get done or like it's not just about me but I think in general how much you can get done when you single-mindedly focus on like one thing because I would have even like when I would look like after that call when I would look at those pictures and compare them before and after there was like 85 days in between them and I was like there's no way or like people that I would ask they would give me like three times bigger number that I think that is the weight that I had lost. And that's like only like 85 days. And something about it for me was like, there's so much that you can accomplish when you kind of remove the unnecessary things or focus on like one thing and just like go towards that. So I think like one thing that I learned is like the importance of focus and how much better you can do and how much, in some ways, more disciplined you can become when you have that like one focus. Yeah, so I think those might be the there's like plenty that are coming, but I'm just thinking like what are the biggest ones?
You can add later in description, just like
Yeah, yeah.
um would you do it again?
Oh yeah, for sure. Um I definitely don't yeah, I definitely would do it again with all the mistakes and everything because I think that each mistake what I think it's giving me is giving me um uh not bragging right, but the right to have anybody who comes to me and they're like, "Oh, I don't think I can do it." I can be like, "Listen, if I was able to figure out how to do it when I was coming from a place where I could barely finish half marathon, and in 90 days I found a way to get through all of this where there was like so many things last minute and I still found a way. If I can do it, then anybody can do it. I'm not saying that you have to do it in that timeline, but it's something that for me it kind of gives me that sense of I see what is possible even for me and I know that like we all have limitations that we are putting on ourselves and for me I feel like if I'm now starting to see that I overcome my limitations, if somebody comes to me and they have something in their mind where they're like, "Oh, I know I'm not sure that I can do it," or stuff like that. I feel like I have more confidence to tell them like you actually do have it because if I was able to figure out this and like my experiences that I have done, how to figure out how to find a way, then I'm more than sure that you can also do that because there's no and I have to be really careful about it because I usually say like there's nothing special about me, but it's like I have put in enough work, had enough reps to be in a place where I can like take on those challenges and do that. But that definitely is like one thing that I forgot the question again. But I know that that's something that when anybody comes to me, they're like, "Oh, I don't think I can do it next year." I'm like, "You can. I can give you all the mistakes that I made, so that you don't make them." Oh, if I would do it again, yeah, 100%. There's no way I would not do it again.
So
Maybe just more prepared.
tying it all together with being more prepared and doing it again, what's in your plans next for next year, maybe?
Um, so next year, I don't want to. I have plans for sure. I want to do a marathon next year, which I have never done marathon, and that's probably one of the biggest limits that I had in my mind, especially when it's because it's running without like back end story. Which also I think I was it's so weird. I think I was feeling a bit more proud by finishing half marathon 2 weeks later without stopping than I was about 70.3 because that always felt impossible for me to run long distance without stopping. And that was the first time ever that I ran the whole distance without stopping. Um, so I definitely want to do marathon. I hope my injuries don't get worse. I'm still recovering with like the ankle. Um, and I have basketball as well, which I'm in amateur league, but sadly I haven't had a chance to play any game because the week of the first game I injured my ankle and it's been 6 weeks and it's still not there. And then I would want to do the full Ironman next year. That's definitely something that I'm looking at and I'm hoping that injuries will not kind of get in the way of me doing it. Or if they will, then they won't be too bad where I can't do it. So those two probably would be the biggest goals for next year is like marathon and full Ironman, which is a beast of itself.
Nice. Sounds exciting.
Yeah,
We'll
so
be waiting for the updates when you decide to sign up finally 2 days before.
finally. Um yeah, so like that's the episode of the Ironman recap. There's more fun episodes coming. We will have I
Yes,
have
what's
like
next? What
yeah,
can
what's
we
next?
expect from this podcast coming?
Well, well, first of all, you can even like if there's anything that you want to have any listeners, like if there's any kind of topics you want us to, I hope you will come back. I don't know. Maybe Cindy will be like, I'm done with podcasting. And by the way, like writing comments for her to come back because I feel like it would be fun for us to have more conversations. And also conversations that are not just about me. Uh, so like I want to I'm like bringing on experts in different kind of topics, and if there's any topics or areas that you would want to learn about, you can always like comment or message or anything like that, or you can email like askaustra@gmail.com any like questions or something like that because it also would be fun down the line to maybe like do like answer some questions from like listeners or something like that or get experts that get on a podcast answer about like specific situations or something that you might be going through. um I might also be doing some solo episodes just like sharing some stuff that I feel I would want to share with you. And then yeah, maybe we will bring Cindy back on again, co-host with me some episodes. And if you like this episode, let me know so that I can then go to Cindy and be like, see, people love this.
Yes, peer pressure me.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much so that's pretty much it. So stay tuned um for the next episodes and many many more episodes to come. And I'm finally back after a while of wanting to come back and then postponing and then wanting and then postponing and then and that's why we ended up having message exchange yesterday and here we are today recording Thursday's episode. Which thank you for coming on because I feel like you added a lot to this episode and for me it is also interesting to kind of hear your perspective of not only the race but also like other topics that we discussed leading up to the race. So yeah. And I guess I'll see you all in the next episode.
Woohoo!